Hey, what's up? So this year, I got inspired to make a pumpkin king for Halloween. Now this guy here, he isn't going to scare anybody. He's got issues. So I'm going to take the idea of this guy and make it a whole lot bigger. So let's do it. For the arms, I'm going to use regular old pool noodles. And the color doesn't really matter because they're going to be completely covered up and then we're going to paint them and change the color anyways. Scissors, we're going to cut the noodle. And we're going to cut it not even halfway down. It doesn't have to be pretty, but we're going to cut and make 4 fingers. There you go. 4. Now, whichever one I'm going to use for the thumb, we're going to cut this one shorter than the rest, and we'll cut it up at an angle because we're going to give him claws. Okay. The other fingers, we can also make those different sizes just for fun. I probably shouldn't leave his middle finger extremely long, but that would be awesome. There. So, hells. All right. Next thing you're gonna need. Fix that. Stretch wrap. And a heat gun. And what we're going to do is wrap each finger individually, and we're going to build on that. We're going to wrap the arm, and we're going to just stick patches wherever the heck we need it. So eventually, you get something that starts looking like this. So, let me show you. The heat gun. Now, somebody's lawnmower broke, apparently. Now, we'll go ahead and we're going to wrap up the finger and end the plastic in a point, and we're going to melt that into a point. Now you're going to want to wear gloves unless you like to burn yourself, which, I mean, if you do, cool, whatever. I don't particularly. I still do it anyway. Now, when you're very first starting, you want to be careful not to melt too much of the noodle itself. So try and be real quick about starting out. There you got the first one. Now we're going to keep on building on that, but we want to cover all the other fingers so that we don't accidentally melt them. Although it does look kind of cool. And there are no real big mistakes that can't be made into something cool. Now the plastic and the noodle are really going to just start molding together and just becoming one big solid piece. And again, like I said, if you accidentally melt something, don't worry, it's going to look cool later. But just try not to melt too much of it. After you get the first initial layer of plastic on the fingers, and we're going to start working with the hand and getting some of these spots that probably weakened up just a little bit, which is no big deal. Now first, we're going to want to run the plastic down along the tube, and this will give it kind of a barky, viney look after it's painted. Not when it's in plastic, but it does look cool when it's painted. Okay, we're going to go all the way down the arm, and all of these wrinkles are going to cause all the really cool imperfections. Glove helps. And I'm going to start strengthening up the hand area, and at the same time I'm going to start building on his arm. And I'm just going to keep throwing patches on all over the place until it's completely covered. We're going to really want to start actually shaping the hand. So make sure the thumb stays separate from the fingers. Make sure the fingers are all on the top and the thumb kind of just work it around the bottom. And as we put on more plastic, I'm going to run around these fingers here next with some plastic to kind of keep them separated from the thumb. They're still going to be super long, but now the thumb is going to be very distinct, very different from the other ones. So I'm going to wrap the top 3 fingers, separate the thumb, doesn't have to be real pretty because it's just all going to get melted together. So now to give each finger a little bit of strength, I am now wrapping each finger individually and running plastic down the arm, and I'm going to start melting it on that way. After you feel like you've got enough plastic on here, the last thing you're going to want to do is actually put one last layer running lengthwise so that you get all these creases and wrinkles and imperfections running that way. You can put it straight on, heat it on, whatever. But you'll have creases going this way, but you want a lot of creases going this way. And it's really just going to be, so when you paint it, it pops out like veins of a vine or a root. So now you should have a mummified pumpkin man hand, or 2 if you're as far. But before we actually paint it, I want to add just one more little detail to give it a little bit of just extra design and extra stuff. So this is the spray foam, and I'm just going to lightly put a little bit on both of these arms, and I'm going to let it completely dry. Just a word of warning, do not push the trigger too hard or you're going to get stuff everywhere. Doesn't take much. Just a little. Sorry, not easy to film and do this at the same time. Anyway, just a little bit. Not too much. Okay, so we've now let this dry completely overnight. The foam has done all the expanding it's going to do, and the plastic is, hardened up, and it is ready to paint. And when you do, you're going to want to get just a light coat on there. You're going to want to get the top, the bottom, just kind of everything. Really get everything, because there are just little cracks and crevices and things everywhere. Now when it dries, you're going to find some spots that you've missed, or some spots that have, you know, the paint just didn't quite take. Actually, this one took really well. But put on a second coat if you have to. Really get these cracks dark, because this is your base. You want all of the deepest cracks just black, because when we put on the other coats of lighter paint, it's really just going to pop them out. Now, the spots that you have these kind of imperfections, just make sure you spray deep inside those things. Really just get a nice, good, deep coat in there. Now this next part, we're going to do some dry brushing. So with that, we're going to take some lighter tan. You're going to get it just a little bit on the brush. And we are going to just lightly brush it on everything to really bring this out and make it kind of look like rotting wood, vines, and whatever else kind of stuff the Pumpkin King would be made out of. Don't worry if it goes on a little thick in a few areas, because the final color that we put on is really going to pop it out. And if you do get it a little too thick in a couple of areas, just blot it off, you know. You could use a wood stain, just a dark stain. And same thing, I'm just going to brush this right over the top of everything. And now it's going to start really looking like thick, creepy roots, anything nasty that grows in some kind of Halloween feel. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to mix some of the dark and some of the light and almost make a medium. And I'm going to go back in and just put a few just slight highlights. Very lightly, just brushing over, just not barely even touching it. Not too much of that. Dry brushing on a little bit of avocado gives it a real mossy, nasty finishing touch. One last finishing touch you can do is grab one of these little weld bars from Lowe's, Home Depot. They've got a whole selection of them. And you stick them right in the very end of the noodle, and you all of a sudden have posable arms. There you have it. The arms, hands, and claws of the beast. Be sure to check out some of my other videos for some other fun builds, including the rest of this guy. Till then, keep it spooky, my crazy friends.